And ladies and gentlemen, here we go. That's right. 2022, and we are on our way. Where are we on our way to? Well, we're on our way to learning. And we learn by doing, and we deal with different things as they come up. And then we work our way through those things, and we learn from those obstacles. And then we make ourselves into better people from that. Oh, and those obstacles we face? Good, bad, or indifferent? Well, it could be every one of them. Sometimes these obstacles we face are self inflicted, some of them are not. Some of them we take on a challenge that we're not too sure with, and that becomes the obstacle. But that's really a great obstacle because once we get into that situation, once we take our personal lives, once we take our business lives into something new and exciting, well, what do? We grow from that. Even if we make a mistake, even if it doesn't turn out the way we wanted it to, we still grow from that. And then what happens when we start again? We start again from another level of experience. We start again from another level of knowledge. Well, today's guest is somebody who just continues to take on new and exciting projects. He continues to expand his own horizons, and the obstacles that he comes through and works through and overcomes, just absolutely amazing. I love talking with him privately, and now we're going to get a chance to meet him together because you'll get a chance to meet Uncle Dave. Uncle Dave has got his own podcast. Uncle Dave is speaking. Uncle Dave has written books. Uncle Dave continues to write books. Who's he specifically? Dave Chametzky. Mr. Chametzky, it is my honor to have you on over here joining us in 2022 on Tomato Talk.
Holy moly, 2022, man. I can't believe, I remember growing up as a kid and as we all grew up as children, thinking like all these numbers. Oh my God, we're going to be the Jetsons. I can't wait to fly my car and all this. But it's great. There's so many opportunities. I can't wait to tell you about everything that's going on, and also all the mistakes that I've let along the way. How many walls I've crashed into along the way.
Yeah, I got a notepad over here. We'll keep a checklist. We'll see who's made more mistakes and who's learned from those mistakes more. It's funny, and you've got a books that you've written, want to continue to do more. Maybe give me a little guidance on that one because I was thinking about writing a book. It's got two different fronts to it. The front side of it, one front side of it would be all the mistakes I made. The other front side of it, with all those learning moments from all of those mistakes that we made. But don't we have to? I mean, truly, don't we have to make mistakes? Otherwise, what are we doing?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it is. You have to learn. Well, you don't have to, right? There's a lot of people who go through life with a lot of mistakes that have happened if they want to play the victim. I don't enjoy playing a victim. And I like to learn from everything that I do. I haven't always been this way. I've always been, oh, this is that, and it's somebody else's fault. But at the end of the day, I get to make my own choices. And when I do work with people, I say, what did you do at that point? So if you punch me in the face, which I know you would never do, but if you punch me in the face, I have two reactions. I can either go punch you back, right? Or I can walk away, and not in a scared way, but like, all right, then I'm never going to go near Brian again because, he's a violent person. Okay, that's an option. Or I can go, hey, why'd you punch me in the nose? So we can learn from everything that we do. And that's the magic, that once we take that time and have that right mindset, that round foundation. I loved when you were talking about, that leveling up, and we can never go back to that old level. It's like, Mario, when we were playing Mario back in the day, you can never go back to the first level anymore until, you maybe had to shut off the game. But
yeah. Hey, Mario Kart still continues going on. It's amazing with some of those things. And you're right. I would never hit you. You got a bat. I'd be like, I understand. But you make a great point. Is that everything that we do is a decision, even if it is walking away and doing nothing. You're still doing something. You're still deciding, at that moment. And then what do you do with that information going forward? Again, it's maybe that specific person, or maybe you learn a little bit more than that. Not just avoiding the one person, but being able to see personalities a little bit quicker. And I think that could also be very helpful as we continue to go through life.
Yeah, for me, I go through periods all the time where I really do deep dives in myself, in that I look to see how I felt during a situation. Why did I feel something in a situation? What triggers might have happened? And it makes me think differently. It's one of those things. I laugh. I've taught people how to think quicker by reacting slower. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, but think about the way I always use this reference. The football player, when they're a rookie, they're like, "Oh my God, the game's too quick. It's moving too quick." The game at the end of the season has slowed down for them through practice, through the right opportunities and the right learning, if you've learned. And that's what makes you start to be an all-star. And by doing that is learning a lot about yourself. And I think that's the way to go. That's, what we can lead into the CLUBERTY piece. That it's a word I trademarked. It's a process in life where we choose to go through. With CLUBERTY, you don't have to go through. Where puberty, you did. You had no choice.
Yes.
But puberty, I think, is just as healthy a process to go through, is to know where your filters are and what you've done in life and how you want to, change some of the direction. We're all good people. From our perspective, we're all good people. How do we then change some of the things that we wanted to do and have different outcomes? Yeah.
So what exactly is CLUBERTY? I'm going to take a guess without, that it's like having a clue and growing from that and maybe learning from those experiences and seeing things as they're happening. Is that what the idea behind CLUBERTY is?
That's exactly it, Brian. You nailed it, which is great, because I love to create a word that somebody could just hear. And if you think about it a little bit, you take that one step back rather than just laughing. Oh, he's talking about puberty. It is about having that clue, because I've gotten myself into situations, as you were mentioning, about sometimes we get into life, we get into situations and, oh my God, the world blows up. And yeah, so if you want to then improve on the world blowing up or not go back to level one, like I always say, chutes and ladders, you always get to almost the end and then you hit that last chute and you get back to one and you're like, you got to stop learning how to get back to one, and you want to finish the game. And that doesn't mean you're done. You could be done for that moment. You could be done for any period of time, but you learn from it, and then you go to that next level.
Right. But I think that by having that, and it's really creating more awareness. It's funny. One of the things I've mentioned is that, we got to slow down and smell the roses. Translating that, into, we got to pay attention to some of those little details that we need to focus on. And then we'll just know that next time and understand that we don't have to focus on that going forward. I wonder if that's terribly far off from the CLUBERTY idea, where you're having a clue, you're learning about these clues along the way about what to really focus on and learning from everything along that path.
Yeah. So when I talk about CLUBERTY with people, I really say find what triggers you. So what triggers you is an identifier to that this is a problem, right? So it's either how somebody's reacting to you. It's not always about them specifically. It might be about something in your past. And once you can identify your triggers, you can then grow from that. You can heal that within ourselves, and that's what I did. I mean, let's be honest. The word came out from work that I did for myself. I mean, 2 years ago, I talk about it all the time because mental health is important. I tried to hurt myself. I tried to end it all, and for a lot of reasons, life got overwhelming at that point. There was a lot of things going on. The year before, I'd lost my dad. I had to move my mom. My business wasn't going as well as I would have liked. And, life sometimes gets overwhelming. And that's why you need to learn to use your resources. So even though I knew all my resources, I wasn't using them. It's like having that gym membership and not using the gym membership, and expecting it all to work out. So what I did is one day, as I'm writing, and I'm writing about actually a girlfriend who got killed by a drunk driver in our 20s. So I'm much older than that. It was like 30 years ago. And all of a sudden, I was crying just as much as I had cried when she first passed. And I was like, all right, there's something there. And with that story, it was a little bit more a survivor guilt piece. And I was like, all right, so there's a lot of triggers. Why do I feel this way for this? Why do I feel this way for that? And I was like, I'm a good guy. I do a lot of charity work. How did I get here? How did I get into this ashes, my Phoenix moment? How do I get into the ashes? And now, okay, I don't want to keep going into the same ashes. I don't want it to be wash, rinse, and repeat. I'd like to get to that next level, and that's what I've built myself. Is I now know better. I listen to my body because a lot of times we hold stress in our body, and how to manage that and make sure that I manage it. Not only identify it, but make sure that what you do with it afterwards.
So you're really coming from things from a different. It's funny. We're on different paths over here. Same kind of goal out there, but you're much more on the relationship, personal relationship or relationship with others, where you're coming, where your projects are, or where your words are going to. Is that same thing hold true with peace, love, and bring it back? Which I gotta love that name. Talk about an actionable title.
Yeah, yeah. Everybody understands about peace and love, right? If I tell you, Brian, can you explain to me about peace and love? We probably could have four shows of just about that. But to bring it back, well, as you can hear, I definitely have the New York, Long Island, Northeastern accent. And, yeah, I grew up in Brooklyn. So you have to bring a bat. You have to be tough at times. But that's not what it's about. It's not about being the tough guy. It's actually being the smarter guy and knowing what your obstacles are, knowing what your boundaries are, how to work with those boundaries, and also your non-negotiables, the stuff that you're like, no, I just can't do it. No matter what, I can't stand on my head, spit nickels, but what I can do is I can stand on my head. And okay, great. So then you can work with that, and knowing those boundaries and having those conversations. All this is about communication. Let's be really honest. Is if you're not communicating to yourself honestly, or to your partner, or to anybody else, none of your relationships are going to work out well. And that's the biggest part that I talk about. And that's why I have lots of guests on the show. It's not about Uncle Dave and you have to listen to me for a half hour, but it's all about learning from everybody. We all have those obstacles. We've all experienced Phoenix moments, is what I'll talk about a lot. Those
Sure.
moments where we're in the ashes, we're like, oh my God, life has gotten to me. I can't move another time. But it really goes back to just lifting yourself out, figuring yourself out, and having those communications with yourself as well as others.
Are you finding that to be the most important conversation, actually? It does, it starts from within. You got to understand who you are, what your limitations are. I mean, realistically speaking, we can't do everything. We just cannot do everything. And those that think they can do absolutely everything, I think you're a little bit, unrealistic. And there are goals. We can work toward goals. And I get the everything's possible. There are a few things that are just flat out, not possible. But understanding mm, where your true limitations are, not to hold you back, but to understand that this way you can work from that level and then move forward. So the
Well,
simple question is it more of an understanding of you that will help the folks that you work with, or help yourself move forward, rather than getting input from everybody else?
there's a level of input, but it also is you have to be comfortable with you. It's that authenticity I talk about. Don't counterfeit yourself is one of the books I'm writing because I used to go around the country training people on counterfeit medicines and things like that. And I had some great stories from that. But it really is about being your most authentic self. I mean, that's why now I put, Uncle Dave. It's very easy to say Dave Chametzky, at least for me it is. Um, but no, but it's the Uncle Dave piece. The Uncle Dave piece, I had to accept. So I just told you that story about trying to hurt myself. Growing up, I was kid ego. I definitely was, me. If I had to do all these things, and that's one of the things I'd say to you, Brian, is you don't have to do it all, right? You don't have to be the guy doing it all, and I didn't need to be the guy. So when I did hurt myself, when I did try to hurt myself, that's what passed. When I got out of that situation, I said I was told. It's a weird story, but for another show.
Okay,
But it's not
we'll
my
leave that as a
time.
cliffhanger.
Yeah. It's not my time, and that I need to go forward and help people. And I had already been helping people, but I needed to take it to a different level. So again, when we talk about levels, and what I did is okay. So Kid Ego died. So the ego piece of it. If I'm going to be talking about that, I tried to hurt myself and the failures that have led to some of the successes, then that has to die. I can't be living in an ego-centric experience if I'm telling you, well, I also tripped and fell on the ice and y'all laughed at me. So there's a part, and when I want to embrace the Uncle Dave was really created. It's not only a biological thing, but it's also the attitude. And one of the examples I use often is meeting one of our state senators during Recovery Day, and we would go up every year and talk about recovery, as I was a recovery coach. And they're just listening to all the stories, and they feel heartbreaking stories about parents who've either experienced recovery or their children have passed because of the addiction pieces. And I see his white eyes going, boom. He's tuning out, but listening politely, nodding at the right time. And I go, no, that's not what we're here for. And everybody looks at me. It's like one of those E.F. Hutton moments. And I go, respectfully, I don't want to hear any more stories. And again, people are like, they all want to be heard. And I listen to everybody's story outside of the room, not inside the room. I go, this meeting here is a short meeting. We need to tell you exactly what we need and why we need it. Sort of that bring a bat moment, though I didn't call it a bring the bat moment at that time. And we walked out of there after, he then, his aides were taking notes and, with some of the things that I knew that we needed, the community needed. And I got the biggest hugs from people, and Stacy Simbrom, who we both know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Stacy she goes, that was Uncle Dave. And and she always would introduce me wherever we would go as Uncle Dave. And I was just like, yeah, all right, whatever. She wasn't calling me Uncle Dave. And I didn't realize it till afterwards. That's who I am. I'm the guy who's going to sometimes say things wrong and not mean it. I'm going to be in the middle of a conference with a state senator and be like, no, you need to do this. And, stop the meeting differently. Yeah.
Right, but that's exactly it. Yeah, that's the actionable side of it. It's and I wanted to ask you where the Uncle Dave, came from, because it tells me, just as a name, it's like if you're using Uncle Dave, it's very friendly, and what you're doing here is it's not a family effort. So there's a reason for using the word uncle, right? It tells me that you're a good listener, and you're people's friend. The idea of being able to spit out things that people need to hear that don't necessarily maybe not want to hear, that it definitely is important. So I give you a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, the other part about Uncle Dave is, so I do some mentoring. I work with people, and I want to create the safe zone. I mean, that's one of the things about Peace, Love, and Bring a Bat, why I would bring the guests on to talk about sometimes very difficult situations. And we've had some really great guests who've shared things that they didn't expect to share. And that's part of that safe space. So I appreciate you saying that. And that's where really Uncle Dave is. When you got in trouble as a little kid, you might not have had an Uncle Dave, but you had somebody that you went to that you couldn't go to mom and dad, right? If you went to mom and dad, there would be different results and different outcomes than if you went to Uncle Dave or somebody like Uncle Dave to help you manage it and figure it out. And it also might not have worked out, but that you knew that person was with you no matter what and was giving you the best advice. Nobody was teasing you. And, I'm not sure if you have any brothers or sisters. It is much easier being uncle anything or aunt anything than to be mom and dad also.
Without a doubt. Yeah. I hear that story from the grandparents.
Yeah.
Being a grandparent is the greatest thing in the world, right?
I
It's like,
hope
all
you're
right,
not
you go,
experiencing
you
that for a
visit the
while, but
kids,
yeah.
they start crying, you go home.
Yeah.
You give them the candy, you get them all revved up, and that's it. But having that confidant, Uncle Dave, that Uncle Dave thing, having a confidant, that mentor, accountability partner in some respects also.
Mhm.
But I would say mentor is probably the better term with that. That's so important with different issues. That gives you that person that you're speaking to a lot more confidence in going out and fessing up to whatever happened to the mom and dad kind of a thing, because at least they spit it out the first time and kind of heard it, maybe got a little bit of a word of advice. But in the business world, isn't that the same thing? Don't we really need to have that group of people, be it a support group or an accountability partner,
Yep.
or somebody that really will help us gain more clarity and confidence within ourselves before we bring it to the other partners and other people, that they are working with?
I love working on a team. That's one of the things I really do enjoy, and I do believe that you need like a mindset people to be in a room with you, even if it's just your friends where you can really talk about some things. And sometimes it's different rooms for different people. So maybe your friends, like some of my friends, who I play ball with, people who I would trust my life with. When I talk about the mindset stuff, they glaze out a little bit. But then I have other people who I can talk to about, some other things, business. I'm working now on some kind of creating some stages and things like that regarding mindset. And I've got to meet some people. And I'm not the smartest guy in the room, which is great. You should never be the smartest guy in the room. You should be one of the smartest people in the room, but you can learn from everybody. Everybody has the potential to be a student, and everybody has a potential to be a teacher. And no matter what level you're in, so even if it's somebody who might be just walking into the room, I guarantee you through their experiences, they can learn something. I did that the other day. I was on a video summit, and somebody was like, well, I don't really know that I could, do this. I have a book in me. So I said, can I ask you some questions? Would that be comfortable for you? Again, creating that safe space. And so then she starts telling us the story. And she goes, yeah, but I don't know. I go, you just told me the story. I go, just write it down. I go, it's on video. It was a VIP section. So I was a speaker. So we had the introductions to the audience. And she looked at me and she was like, yeah, that's what you need, is somebody who's going to see things differently. Sometimes our worst critics are our family, not because that they choose to be our worst critics. It's because they want protection, right? Everybody is a protector of some sort generally, and they don't want to see us hurt. Look, I think a lot of the mistakes that I've experienced or things I've had to overcome were due to protection versus either their own self-protection or protection of didn't want me to be hurt.
Right. Oh, that's a big deal. I agree with you 100%. Your accountability partner better be someone who actually holds you accountable to stuff. doesn't throw an umbrella over you and make sure you never get wet in the rain.
Yeah,
It
that's the challenge. And sometimes if you're your own accountability partner, guess what? That's where things start sliding. You know your deadlines. I've missed. Look, let's be really honest. So we shared offline or even on here that I have a couple of books. I've had a couple of books for a while, and I finally, last year I co-published a book where I wrote a chapter in a collaboration book, which was a #1 bestseller, international bestseller with Jim Britt and Kevin Harrington. So you assign yourself. Again, I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but I learned stuff from them, and they learned things from me, so which is great. So collaborating. I mean, using a lot of different words, and I like using the R words because that's one of my other books, and it's a T-shirt line I put out this year. Finding the R in your heart, and what that means is everybody has an R in their heart. One, factually, when you spell heart, there's an R in it, but there's words like rise, resilience, recalibrate. Those are the ones I always talk about. But also being a renegade, being a rebel, all those opportunities are things like that. And that's what the book's about, is about finding the R in your heart and why these words are resonating with me, another R. And I don't know what ones are going to resonate with you, but it gives you the time to think about what's an R that you might be resonating with.
right.
Do you have actually, we'll ask you, Brian, do you have an R that might you? Or
Well,
just be a pirate, and you can go, "Arr!"
Every once in a while, maybe on the pirate side of things, but it's that rising thing. It's like, what really is the true, my true potential. I go out there and I'll speak. I do these high school, used to go into the high schools, but, do the career days, with speaking to the students. I expect, once we get through COVID, the rest of that stuff, that'll happen again. But that's the thing I talk about. And that's my look in the mirror kind of comment. It's like, okay, so if I'm telling a student, high school, junior high, as early as fourth graders one time, that they should really take a look to see what it is that they're doing, and they could rise to that occasion because it's stuff that comes naturally to them, where they use the word, oh, I just kind of thing. It's like, okay, so, that imposter syndrome kind of a thing. It's like, oh, if I'm telling them that, well, I better be doing the same thing over here. And what is it that I can use the word just for and really rise to? So that's my.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'm gonna send you a shirt. So we'll just have to hook up, and I'll send you one of my find your R in heart shirts that says Rise. I will gift you that for being my friend.
Well, I'll have to rise to the occasion then. You're a
Well,
good man.
it'll be a remember. It'll be a way to remember another R.
Yeah.
And truthfully, so one of the out of all the first season, I've already started second season of the podcast. One of the best pieces that I would love to, and I love to use this, is another R word. But somebody told me instead of rise, resilience, all that stuff, how about risk? Take that risk well. Don't just take a risk. Take the risk well and see how you do that. Every day, take a risk. So whatever you do, it doesn't mean you have to jump off a bridge. I would not suggest that. But I would say take that risk and do that and lead with what are you going to do that is out of your comfort zone.
Right. And there is the balance with all of everything that we do. Look, you started doing a podcast, you wrote a book, you got the website, you opened your world up, your private world up by doing it. All of that stuff is risk related. Mm-hmm. The question is, what is the downside to it? What are you willing to share and not share? And what's a reasonable, I'm trying to use ours here, a reasonable risk reward level, to take with all these things, because you're right. Hey, can I go climb Mount Everest? Yes. No,
you
I'm
can.
not even sure how far I'd get up before I die. That's not reasonable.
But it is. It is. You just have to do the things that lead you to that. So that's the thing. It's not that it's not reasonable. It's just what type of effort are you going to put into it? And there's only so much time during the day. So if you have to work out 6 hours a day, that might not, like, to be a professional athlete. If you and I say, all right, I was pretty good at baseball in high school, so I'm going to really start focusing on it. That's probably not reasonable to say that I'm going to be a professional major league baseball player. But you could improve on all the other skills, and that's what it is. It's taking the skills and do that. If your goal is to be on Mount Everest, guess what? There are thousands of people that go up every year. And you could do it. I know you do a bunch of hiking and things like that, but it's going to take that next level, right? It's not just. I mean, you've already accomplished so much. You've been to the summit of many mountains in your life. And how do you do that? How do you reach the summit of whatever you want to reach?
So the short answer is, I learned what it took. It was at Mount Washington. I learned what it took to go up Mount Washington. It's not reasonable for me to go up Mount Everest for a number of reasons. Maybe I'm healthy enough to do it, but putting all the time, energy, and effort into it,
right?
It's not my focus, and that's where that one
correct.
Goes.
And that's one of your non-negotiables, right? So that's one of the bring a bat moments. It doesn't have to be violent. It could be like, no, I don't really need that much. No. What do I really need? And that's just as important.
I can tell you what I'd like to do is I'd like to do an interview live from the base camp of Everest, which is still 17,000 feet. That works for me. Bring the microphone. The microphone is the common thread in my life. That's where that goes. Dave, what do you, Uncle Dave? Any closing comments over here? We got about a minute left to go, and I'm gonna.
Well, how I end all of my, podcast is really, I want everybody to find peace and love in their life. That's so important. It really is. And then, the bring a bat is, you want to find your sweet spot. Make sure that whatever you do, find your sweet spot. Hit that home run. It's not just that. And also make sure that you put value. Muhammad Ali said, the price we pay for being on this planet is by doing service of others. And I always want to do that. So reach out to me. I would love to hear about all the 501c3s that need help. I love doing help. And that's my final thing.
That's perfect. Dave, thank you so much. Really glad that you were able to join us today. Always a pleasure. And as you continue to move forward, come out with those books, the podcast, everything. We'll put up the links to everything, of course, to your website. But certainly we'd love to have you back on again.
Excellent. You know me. I enjoy spending time with you anytime we have the opportunity.
You got it, my friend. Stay well.
All right. Thanks.
Oh, isn't that the case, though? Peace, love, and bring it back. There's a balance in there with everything. You got to be at peace with yourself, right? Maybe loving others and loving the journey that you're on. Maybe that's part of the whole thing. But to bring it back, got to take action. Must take action. That's what you need to do. And one way to take action is to speak well, speak often, and live inspired.